So what we did was that we turned the church auditorium into a food bank warehouse. But then what we had to do was figure out how we actually get the food out versus whanau no longer able to come in, the public weren't able to come in. And to make sure that the most vulnerable cohorts of whanau were at the top of the list. So we did that, plus we looked at who are the others that are in our surrounding West Auckland communities that we need to get to at the jump. So one of those was the marae kura kaupapa.
A lot of our Māori whanau were frontline workers or essential workers. We are collective people, and of course we live, closely together. And so, those essential workers had to be really cautious and careful. It was an opportunity to invite services throughout West Auckland who had an interest in supporting our Māori communities to actually come together to share what they were doing, in response to supporting our whānau through COVID. What are the opportunities or gaps that we might see in a system that may not be working for our Māori communities or whānau? As a collective, what we came up with was kai sovereignty, rangatahi. What does that look like in terms of supporting our rangatahi out here in West Auckland, given that it's a young population out here? Community economic development, Māori leadership. So what does that look like in terms of our rangatahi leadership? What does that look like in terms of our current leadership?
I had to consider what our Māori crisis framework might look like. How do we provide tikanga support within level 4? So all those things I'm asking are questions that probably a lot of people probably don't get to ask themselves, but I was able to use a little bit of time that I had, do a little bit more research in crisis leadership, and then look at what that might look like in a Māori environment. So I came up with a framework called Whitu Pairanga. And so Whitu Pairanga was based on 4 stars. So I used the navigation thing to help me, because we were going into a journey that was new for us. So we had to follow some guiding stars. Now what we've got to do is we've got to navigate our way through the impacts of COVID. Loss of jobs, loss of incomes, disconnection, increased anxieties amongst the immediate whānau. What does the anxieties look like if you're a child, a young person, single mum, or just an adult, or an elderly person? So
what does that look like in terms of kura kaupapa Māori, our marae and leadership? How do we as a collective support our leaders to continue to do what they do well? Also, we have a collective of marae out here. We've got our 2 main marae out here in West Auckland, but we also have marae within schools. So how do we support our marae even more so to become cultural hubs? It doesn't matter what kaupapa might be driven out of that marae, but it's the context in which it's delivered. So funding opportunities is a big one at the moment, to look at funding options to support those 5 po or those 5 kaupapa that I spoke about, but also individually as organisations, what can they sort of apply for to support what we already know around the needs and wants as a way forward to support our whānau through the second wave of COVID and the third wave, and so on and so on and so on.
I'm appreciating the fact that what COVID has done is brought the Māori community together. Yeah, we all have our individual roles to play, but really we're better at this if we do it together.